So now let's get back to cognitive distortions and Dr. David D. Burns. He's an author, lecturer, professor at Stanford University, and he wrote this book in 1980 called Feeling Good, which details the 10 cognitive distortions. But this is the book that still psychiatrists recommend to their patients to relieve symptoms and anxiety of depression. This book is still regarded as one of the best book on depression. Now, the self-help industry often refers to cognitive distortions as mind chatter. You've heard of it, right? It's the constant conversation that you're having with yourself all the time. Some of them good, which I call mindful, and some of them mindless, which I call some of them negative, which I call mindless, and it's repetitive, sometimes cognitive distortions. So one of you might be sitting there right now thinking, this lecture is kind of interesting, but I really should be at home cleaning my house. I got a party going on tonight. My God, why are we having this party in light of the financial situation that we're in? Thank God this lecture is free. I wonder if she's ever going to get to how to fix this darn mind chatter. Because I don't think I even need it. I don't think I have mind chatter. I actually have friends and clients that don't think that they have mind chatter. So a good way to think about mind chatter versus cognitive distortion is to think about an iceberg. Everything above the waterline is mind chatter. Everything below the line is cognitive distortions. So the danger lies below the waterline in cognitive distortions because it's fueled by negative belief systems. Beliefs come from our three basic needs: the need to achieve, the need to be accepted and loved, and our need for control. When the need becomes obsessive, this is when it can destroy our happiness, and we don't even realize it. And it only takes one cognitive distortion to get the mind chatter engine started. So now, you guys ready for the cognitive distortions? There's 10 of them. All right, so the first one is all or nothing thinking. You see things in black and white categories. If your performance falls short of perfect, you see yourself as a total failure. This is the one for you perfectionists. This is your favorite one. So fill in this blank for me, all right? If I can't blank, I will never blank. If my daughter doesn't get straight A's in high school, she'll never get into a good college. If I can't deliver this lecture perfectly, I should just stop teaching right now. If I can't go to Hawaii this summer for vacation, I don't want to go on any vacation at all. Now, you know people like this because I know you're chuckling. You know an all or nothing black or white person, right? This distortion may sound trivial to you, but if left unchecked, it'll lead from one to the other, to the other, to the other. If you don't show me any affection at all, you must not love me. If you don't love me at all, then why did we even get married? My mother said 20 years ago this would never work. I might as well just leave. And then off you go into this negative spiral of self-defeating thoughts. You all know that absolutes don't exist. There's no black and white, only shades of gray. So you need to see the world as the shades of gray. There's always more decisions than yes or no or on or off. There's always more choices. And so all or nothing thinkers sometimes have a really hard time making good decisions. Now the second one is overgeneralization. You see a single negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. So you arbitrarily conclude that something that happened to you once is going to happen to you over and over and over again, and things will never get better. So while on the surface this distortion may not sound serious, but when pervasive, this distortion forms the basis of the decision to commit suicide. So many loners end up committing suicide or homicide because they have this distortion early in life that they feel like they're never going to be popular or never accepted. A less morbid example, please, let's get there, is if you have a bad result from a test, you say, oh gosh, I'm such a terrible test taker, I always take such bad tests. It doesn't even occur to you to think, well, you know what, maybe I didn't have time to study, or maybe I studied the wrong material for this particular test. or that maybe the test itself is faulty. You know, the test might be confusing. You just think I'm really bad at taking tests, which means I'm not going to get into a good school, which means I'm not going to graduate from a great school, I can't get a good job, which means I'll never make enough money, and I'll end up in a van down by the river. So we chuckle, but different versions of these thoughts plague us, you know. The only difference between mental illness and mental wellness is the frequency, the magnitude, and the duration of cognitive distortions. You know, the definition of psychosis is any severe mental disorder in which contact with reality is highly disordered or completely lost. The third distortion is mental filter. You pick out a single negative detail and dwell on it exclusively so that your vision of all reality becomes darkened, like the drop of ink that colors the entire beaker of water. My first year at Berkeley, my first test was an economics test years ago. I missed 35 out of 100. And I thought, oh my God, my career at Berkeley is over. I started packing because, you know, things like that just doesn't happen to me. I don't miss 35 out of 100. Are you kidding me? I thought everybody at Berkeley was smarter than I was, and I thought this isn't the school for me. I'm going to fail. I had a miserable week. At the end of the week, the professor announced that 65%, the 65 that I got right, was the highest in the grade, in the school, and because he grades on a curve, I got an A+. So the truth was exactly 180 degrees from my distorted reality. I was miserable for a week. So this is an example of a cognitive distortion that you can disprove immediately. But for an overachiever who has a distortion like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, you may never be able to correct that mental filter, that distortion. How damaging would that be to your life, to live your life with a distortion like that? Your world would be completely different than if you didn't have that distortion, wouldn't it? So now, unfortunately, many of us are not even aware of the mental filter that is distorting our world. You know, mental filters are really nasty distortions, and we really need to get rid of them because it can cause you unnecessary pain and anguish for an entire lifetime. This is a good one. Disqualifying the positive. Let me see how many of you done this last week. You reject positive experiences by insisting that they don't count for some reason or another. In this way, you can maintain a negative belief that is contradicted by your everyday experiences. So a common example of this is somebody says, oh, you look really nice. And you think, oh, she's just saying that to be nice. Or, you know, I really look good in darker colors. You know, charcoal and black always makes me look thin. Right? Taking the negatives of your life, as I knew that was going to happen, and disqualifying the positive as it was an accident or it doesn't count is really very destructive. You know, cognitive distortions are always linked one to another. So if you have all or nothing thinking, you probably have disqualifying the positive too. The price you pay for disqualifying the positive is lack of joy. It's lack of joy. It's inability to appreciate the good things in life, not owning the goodness of you, who you are, and what your life brings to you really can be a destructive distortion that can affect your view of self and your view of the world.